when all of us, large group of migrants, we were very concerned about the debate on migration, about how the media was reporting our stories and issues, and how everybody was talking about migrants except migrants. So we felt it's about time we got together, we mobilized each other, we learned how to engage, how to speak to the media, and we start engaging in the conversation which is taking place about us, without us. We have to be part of the conversation.
I guess it's all about influencing policy as well, so it's following from what people are saying about unfairness and the way things are represented in the media. So it's all about us coming together and actually helping to influence the policy on migration, because if no one speaks for us, someone else will narrate it for us, so we all need to be proactive.
Absolutely. Great. Okay. Other
Migration has become like a business for a little group of people that really don't want migrants to take part in that. So every time you as a migrant want to be part of some kind of project, it's actually people who are already Danish or already English who are being the leader in that kind of group or community or whatever project it is. So we don't really get access to things that is about us.
Why should we?
Actually, you say something early today about fairness. I think there is a huge issue about it's kind of being allowed to treat migrants differently because they are migrants. It's like a you came here, so you need to accept everything, and they don't have the same rules, or they don't expect to follow the things they follow for the locals. And I find that's very unfair, and we need to speak up for that. It's a law is for the locals, the laws apply for us, and we are both with that. But law for us only, I think that is a discrimination in every way possible. And I think we need to make a point.
Brilliant.
Is freedom. We get freedom by speaking about how we feel. And if you're not immigrant, how would you know how immigrant person feel, or how they felt when they came to this country, things they faced? Because you can tell people how you want to say things, but if you're speaking from emotion and experience, it makes it easier for people to understand you. And we don't get that opportunity to speak out. Things we face and things we feel. Just people makes it easier for us, like some, kids, we're able to understand, also to make a decision for ourselves. But we don't get that right, which should be a right for anybody who can speak for themselves to make a decision, but we don't make a decision. And I think that's why your organization is there to help us, people to see and hear our stories, and also be able to express our freedom, and freedom that we want.
I think it's also really important to unite the different migrant communities, because obviously an experience for a European citizen coming to Britain is very different from someone who's a refugee coming to Britain. But in the negative policies and the negative media, it's just all put together in one word, migrant, basically, completely ignoring all the different stories and backgrounds people have. So it's good to have the opportunity to exchange in events like this, so we can work basically together on helping everyone in the community, no matter where they come from.
Sure.
I am very concerned. I'm an old migrant, as in I've been here for a long time. 25 years in terms of how long I've been a migrant for, and I was asking earlier, what is the legal definition of a migrant? I mean, once you've got a British passport, are you no longer a migrant? Are you a migrant or an immigrant because you weren't born here, being born here, but being of different parentage, it's a minefield, isn't it? The point that I wanted to make, which I find sad and distressing, and this is something that has continued historically, is the policy of divide and rule. So the manifestation here, yeah? You agree?
Yeah, totally. It's everyone against everyone. Yeah.
And this whole thing, it's so sad that there is a them and us. I understand why. And in a way, when we were talking about, there was mention earlier of all the different hues and varieties of people, because migrants are not just one, but it's become all migrants get lumped together in one pot, everybody else gets lumped together in another pot. And I just find it interesting. Let's all do who do you think you are, and go right back. How many people have actually, who originally belongs here anyway? So I'd be interested to see how can we cover over that schism, make that them and us, not them and us, but all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely brilliant.
It's the diversity brings to a country. Like even in the UK, if you look at how different London is compared to the rest of the country. I mean, personally, I'm from Holland, and speaking to people in London, I feel like no one is actually born and bred in London. I've been here for a year, but I actually haven't met a lot of people who are actually from London. And if you look at what the city brings in terms of diversity and cultural richness, really, as compared to the rest of the country, then on a policy level and in shaping the dialogue, I think we should do a whole lot of a better job in pointing out how that enriches everyone's life. Yeah.
As a European citizen, you can stand as a council candidate, and obviously at some point if people acquire British citizenship, then they can also go on and stand in Parliament. Because I've been at an event in House of Commons, it was 2 weeks ago, that was organised by a friend of mine who's a Romanian student here in London, and he is very engaged in the Romanian Student Union, and he put this event on, and they had people there who've been, a Portuguese guy was there who was councillor somewhere in London, and how this was his way to try to bring people of his community more engaged in local activities, have someone who's representing them in their constituency, in the council, to bring forward like good things from their community, and just like have someone who's responsible for them, because often they might feel like some migrant communities might feel disengaged with political parties or politicians because they can't relate to them, because maybe even if you go and volunteer for your local MP and then they stand up in Parliament and talk the party line on migration, can feel quite alienated. So it's a good way forward to just try to get engaged and involved yourself.
Happy for everyone to go out to the communities and to engage people with Parliament. And they were happy also for us as migrants who don't understand the system, how it works here. So it was important for us actually to understand, well, there is this process we can engage with, and let's use it as well.
Yeah, it very much came from a place where they realised that we think that people see it as an ivory tower, that people, and if you're not in London, you're not even close to the House of Commons, but if you forget it if you're somewhere else in the country, but even people in London who walk past the House of Parliament every day think, that doesn't relate to me, and I can't go in there, and I have no way of engaging with that. But I do think that sometimes I'm very inspired by people who have come from countries who have come here for reasons exactly because they stood up to their authoritarian government, and I think a lot of people actually can also inspire. How do they have been revolutionary and fought that, and I think it's both.
Yeah, because it depends on which group.
Something like mental health came in this evening, because it's heartbreaking when you study, the number of migrants who are wandering on the streets because of mental illness. Then we have to study the factor. The system of immigration here is so sad. Take for instance, if somebody waiting for how many years before you get your papers? Before it used to be 10 years. If, let's say you come here and you've been hiding as, in quotes, illegal immigrant, after 10 years maybe, if you were not taken back to your native country, automatically you qualified for residency. From 10 years it was increased to 14 years. 14 years is now 18 good years. By the time you finish, you know what it means to be hiding without papers, no job, nothing. So even before 10 years, you've already developed a mental illness. In the process, they will hand over the passport to you and everything that still, you've already gone garbage. You can't be useful to yourself, to the society and all this. So it's not a question of pumping money to research this in. We have to put this government under pressure. At least, if they can reduce this number of waiting, it's not as if I'm encouraging people to start swimming, risking their lives coming here and all that, but you cannot not avoid it. In 100 years time, we will still be talking about this, and it doesn't stop people from, taking every risk they think they can to come to the United Kingdom. So that's my own contribution. If we can work along this side, that will be very nice. 18 good years waiting for papers to come.
Think that a certain group is a certain way, and then you start understanding them a bit better, and then you go, oh, actually, no, I like that as well, and so you suddenly understand that there is room to be the same. And I think that is one of the major things that is a problem at the moment, whether you are a migrant, first generation or second generation, or you are British, white British, whatever, everyone thinks they're different. And if you think they're different, you're hanging on to what it is that you know. And fear is then so easily passed through all the different groups. And I think by finding a way to find the common things, the human things we have in common, to me, the fact coming again to my family who are migrants from like 50, 60 years ago, who think they're different or don't understand the migrants that are coming here now for the same reasons, which is to find a better life. And that they think they're so different, that there's something terribly wrong with that. And so what is the way to connect these groups together to find some commonality between them, so that that has to break down first of all before anything, so you feel like, actually no, we do share things in common, and then we can work together as a group. And I think for me, it comes from grassroots, it comes from going into the community and sharing stories and making everyone understand, well actually, my grandma did this and this, and a migrant from today is doing this and this. Look, you do actually have stuff in common. To me, that's where I want to go, that's where I want to find the connections, and then for them to understand what democracy is another issue in itself, because I think a lot of British people don't actually understand what democracy is, whether they're migrants or not.
He pushed inside the House of Commons. He was telling us how he was lobbying to try to convince other politicians to change the law. So sometimes we need to use some of this to bring, we need alliances. We need to have some people inside who support us, who go inside and talk to other MPs to say, this is wrong, I met someone and this is the story and this is not fair. So we need to have both, but in social media
it's not that.
I like
what she
word.
says about us fighting among us is actually terrific. That's absolutely true. If you see other groups like LGBT, if something happening in their community, they are so supportive that is terrifying. So they are really supportive. We are not supportive with each other. Actually, the other day I was in a cat rescue center. So nothing to do with migrants. And a migrant told me, now why people want to go to any place to marry a foreigner? Is not enough women here. Oh my goodness, you have the right to marry whoever you want to marry. So we are really harsh with each other. We need to be more supportive. We have the power to change things. And we need to start thinking about it.
I'm with a movement that's called Young European Movement, so we are a group of people from different European countries here in London, some in work, some students, and we try to bring different European cultures together and make them understand each other a bit better. But something that I've noticed is our talk about freedom and freedom of movement is like really, really different to talk in a group like this, where you have people from not European countries, from Africa, or from countries with like authoritarian regimes, like you said earlier, refugees, because for us, our discourse is always in the European community, and it stops at the European border, and especially with the discussion about Operation Mare Nostrum and all those kind of things. There's big European policies that we should also be concerned about as European movement, but it's something that normally never really comes on our agenda, because we are really busy with ourselves in a way. And I think it would be quite beneficial to really join forces in the community, like bring more European, like interested European people who have this thought that it should be a right to move freely, that we want to exercise this right, that we should bring it on the agenda together with others like refugee people and whatever from everywhere, to see that it doesn't have to stop at the European border, that people can go and seek a better life.
Absolutely.
You want to come here to get something for free. And I think it's really important to communicate, even on that very fundamental level, that if people have the choice of staying with their families in their homes and have the kind of life that they want, they would not move. And a lot of people hate the weather here, for example, like first off, So I think in terms of that, it's really important even to, because sometimes I think maybe we take it for granted that people know certain things, like looking for a better life, but a lot of people actually just think that it's an excuse to, you know, take things for free. So I think, yeah, it's important to get like those messages out there and to tell personal stories and to relate on a more kind of a human level.
So I was just wondering from what you point about going into local communities. So when I first thought about local communities, I'm just thinking about my community, Tottenham. That obviously there's a various like diverse cultural diversity and things, and there's a lot of different communities to approach. So I'm thinking it would be good to maybe do some migrant UK road shows and contact local associations, because I know, like for instance, my parents, obviously I'm a second generation Ghanaian, but my parents are part of a Ghanaian association. There's like also the Somali community, Congolese as well. So I think it'd be good to just penetrate through them as well, just to kind of see what you're about and then see how you can help them as well with immigration issues as well, rather than, it's good to have like general events, but I think it will also be good to start doing that festival, so you kind of build some form of some like community relations on the grassroots, and then later on start educating them, and obviously they're aware of where to go to, like who to go to if they need some form of help or if they need any issues as well. So
these common ground are basically common problems. I think that that's the basic thing on which to work together. Because for example, I remember I was working on a project between my region, Puglia, community in Puglia in Italy, and community in Lebanon. And the community in Lebanon, different Christian, Muslim, they can talk between each other, but since they had common problem like to learn how to cultivate the land or how to save, through these problems, by finding solution, they just started to cooperate. So I think that like between migrants from different communities and migrants and locals, if you come up with the same problem and if someone finds a solution, then all the other barriers come a little bit down.
And that's where you get the votes as well, because once people then understand and feel connected, they will start thinking twice about a UKIP poster coming through saying, you know, don't, you know, hate all the foreigners, because they'll start having a more personal relationship with that and they'll think twice about it.
Migrants do also to the UK and to every other country. When you increase the diversity, you also increase the level of competition, and you challenge people to be better. And that in itself, in the whole dialogue with migrants, is also being ignored, because people are scared to be pushed to be better.
Don't let foreigners take our jobs. And that's like a really simple message, but for a lot of people, they really felt as if this was true without knowing the nuances behind, you know, policy, without knowing really the background behind that message, which is a very toxic message. So I think as migrants, it's good to kind of get more of our messages out there so that you debunk, you know, these classic myths of people coming in and taking your jobs, or people coming in and using, you know, NHS, you know, resources. I mean, what about the nurses that are coming in to work in these hospitals, you know? What about the people who are coming in to contribute to a better economy and to study here and who are paying taxes? So I think that's like an important way of, debunking myths.